Welcome back everyone to yet another interesting session on SQL programming. So in the first video in our SQL programming playlist, we just saw how to use Oracle Apex to write SQL commands and to execute SQL scripts. And in that video, we just used a script called create schema script in which we created six different tables, right? And we just inserted one records each. Now what I've done is I've created one more insert schema script, and in that script I just made sure that I inserted more records, at least five more records into each table. So that is what is there in this insert script, and I already told you how to execute the scripts. So what I did is I just went to the SQL script. I uploaded the insert schema script and then I executed run, and all the records were successfully inserted. So that thing is complete now. After that, now we are into the SQL commands, and I wanted to tell you something. So many people think that once when I write the SQL commands, when I come in the next time, it's not there. Yes, even in mine, just a few seconds before, you saw a screen full of content in it. But now when we went to SQL script and when we came back to SQL commands, my commands are gone. So what you have to do is when you are writing a set of commands, like let's say I am doing select star from tutor, okay, and let me run it. So I got the output. Now, if I wanted to retain this SQL command, whatever I wrote, even after like I log out, then you have to save your commands. So click on the save button. It'll ask you what name you have to save. This is just a test. So I just say test and save. Do you see here? So now if you click on test, like let me go to SQL workshop. Now when I come to SQL commands, do you see that it no longer exists? But you can take it up. How? Go to saved SQL, and then do you see your test script is being saved? Your test SQL command window is saved. So if you just click on it, you will have your query. Likewise, whatever query I was showing you in the beginning of the video, I just saved it in SQL query online tutoring system. So let me click on it and here it is. I have everything saved. So what I would recommend to you is when you are working on your exercises, keep saving your commands so that it's not lost. Okay, so now coming here. So now I've inserted multiple records to my tables. I will show that to you. So this is my tutoring session. It has almost six records in it. And then I have my enrollment table. So the enrollment table also has six records. Now let me go to student. Here again you have multiple records. Then we have tutor, and then we have the areas of expertise. So once when you read through the lessons that are provided to you or whatever book that's being instructed to you from the college where you study, so you will have a better understanding on how to write queries. When I say queries, like how to use select statements with where clause, then join subqueries and all that. So I am going to assume that you have gone through all the lectures, all the study materials that are specified for you, and after that you're watching this video. So I'm assuming that you know what are joins, you know subqueries, you know select queries and all that. With that assumption in mind, I have bunch of questions here. So we are going to write queries for these SQL query exercises. And since this is not a valid query, it is a comment. So we will put two dashes or two hyphens to indicate that it is a comment. Comments are ignored while executing. Okay, so these comments are just for our reference. So what we are doing is we are having 5 SQL queries which we are going to write and execute based on the tables that we have already created. Okay, now coming on to the first one. Fetch first name, last name, and enrollment date of all students who enrolled after June 30th, 2024. So, how do we do it? Okay, so first of all, for this one, what all tables do we need? Here we say students, so we know that student table is taken into picture. So let me run the student table. So the student table has the first name that we want, the last name that we want, correct? So let us do that. So we write a select query, and remember in the previous video I told you that if you put select asterisk or star, it means you're selecting all the columns. Instead, if you mention the specific name, column name, then only that column will be taken into consideration. And by default, your table shows everything in uppercase, but it is not case sensitive. Only the values stored in the table are case sensitive. The table name or column name is not case sensitive. So whether you put it in uppercase or lowercase, it will work. So select first name, last name. After select, it will be the from clause. So from which table? Student. Right. But they are asking about the enrollment date, and students who are enrolled after June 30, 2024. So where does this enrollment date come into picture? Which of this table contains the enrollment date? Can you think? Right. It is in the enrollment table. So let us run this enrollment table. So enrollment table has student ID, enrollment date. It doesn't have the student name, student's first or last name. So now it is clear to us. See, what I'm trying to tell you is this query will need a join for us, and that is because your student table, it has your first name, last name, and the student ID. Correct? Now, you also have the enrollment table, which also has student ID, and it has the enrollment underscore date. So now both your student and enrollment have the student ID. So student has it as a primary key, enrollment has it as the foreign key. So now we have to establish a join between these two tables, the student and enrollment table. We should enforce a join between them so that we can retrieve the information. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Select first name, comma, last name from student. So your first class is your select class. The second one is your from class. Okay. The next one will be your join. So you will say join. Which table do you want to join? The enrollment table. Correct? Join enrollment on, you have to give a condition. So what is the condition? The student ID should match with enrollment student ID. Correct? So you will say student dot student ID is equal to enrollment dot student ID. We say student dot student ID, enrollment dot student ID, because if you say student ID equal to student ID, will the system be able to recognize which student ID has to be compared with which student ID? No, because both the tables are sharing the same column name. So you will put on student.student ID equal to enrollment.student ID. Okay, and after doing this, what we are going to do is, it's still not over. You just joined them, but they also gave us a condition where your enrollment should happen after this date. Correct? So after the join, we will put the where clause where enrollment dot enrollment underscore date is equal to, sorry, since they said who enrolled after, it should be greater than, in single quote, we can put the date, or you can use to date and mention the desired format. So now, even before running this query, let us first look at it manually and let's try to find out the answer. Okay, so enrollment date on or after 6/30/2024. So which means the first three records wouldn't fit into that condition. The last record will also not fit into it. So it's only these two dates are coming after 30th June. Am I right? So now let us see what are the student IDs. So student IDs are going to be 5 and 6. So now basically we have to display the first and last name of students 5 and 6. So the output should be Emily White and Frank Davis. Am I right? Okay, now let us try to execute our query and see if we are getting Emily White and Frank Davis as the answers. Here we go. We got the right answer. Okay, and using this query, I wanted to teach you few more concepts here. Okay, so here if you see, you said student.student ID and enrollment dot student ID. So this is fully qualified name. Instead, you can also use alias name. So what do? We say student, give an alias name or another alternate name for student. For enrollment, let's say E. Then instead of saying, wherever you say student dot, you can just say S dot. And wherever you say enrollment dot, you say E dot within this particular query alone. This alias name is temporary and it fits in only in your query. Okay, so here also we can say E dot. And coming here, first name, last name, and enrollment date. So we did not include enrollment date. Let us include it. So now let us run the query. It gave us the answer. And so you might ask, when you say S dot student ID, E dot student ID, E dot enrollment date, why didn't we use those alias names here? You can very well use it. So first name comes from student. So we say S dot. The last name comes from enrollment. And I'm sorry, last name comes from student and enrollment date comes from enrollment. So we could give those alias names here. But why was it optional? Because the first name is there only in the student table. It is not there in the enrollment table. There is no ambiguity. And coming on to the last name and enrollment date, it's the same. It is just appearing once when you compare both the tables. Let us take the student ID, as we know that student ID is there in both the tables. Did you see? It gives us an error. It says column ambiguously defined. So when you are selecting a column which is there in both the student table and enrollment table, then you have to clearly mention from which table are you displaying the student ID. So for student ID, the alias name dot or the table name dot becomes mandatory. So let us say we are taking it from student. So we gave S dot. Okay, so here also we have the ambiguity. Here let us try to take it off. Let us run it because enrollment date is there in only one table. See, here it didn't give us a problem. Even in first name, we will not have a problem. Last name as well as enrollment date. Only with student ID there is a problem because student ID exists in both the tables. Okay. Now, one more alternative solution that you could come up with is in join, you have something called using. Join using. You use using only when both the tables have a common column based on which you are comparing. Then what you do is, then you say using and then student ID in parenthesis, which means I'm joining the student and enrollment table using student ID. And here we don't use the alias name. Even here you no longer need the alias name because the join knows that when I have using, it is a known fact that there is a common column across tables. When you use on, the column names could be different, the column names could be same, there is no restriction on that. But when you use join using instead of join on, then it is an accepted fact that whatever column names you are specifying within the parenthesis next to using, that column exists in both the tables. So since this is an accepted fact, the system itself will give you the student ID from one of those tables. Is that clear? So you can use a join on or join using, and join by default is an inner join. So even if you use the inner join keyword, it is going to give you the same. So if your question demands, you might use outer join, left outer join, right outer join, cross join, natural join, and all that. I would expect you to go and research all different type of joins. If time permits, I will try to post videos on joins separately on subqueries and all different topics, but I do not guarantee it at this point of time. So I expect you to go through your training material as well. Okay? Fine. So I believe you're clear with the first query. Now, coming on to the second query, list all sessions with a fee lesser than $300 and a duration of greater than 4 hours. So here the table name that they've specified as sessions, we know session refers to the tutor session. Correct? So now let us see how to crack this particular one. So before that, let me erase this diagram. Okay, so now coming on to this one, the keyword that we know is session, and we know session refers to tutor session. So what we are going to do is we are going to execute this command. Okay, so we got all the sessions that are available. Now, let us see all the queries. What I would expect you to do is look at the table, and if you wanted to manually find out the answer, do that first. Find out what is the answer. Now, when you write the query and run it, you should get the same answer as output. Okay. So now list all sessions with a fee lesser than $300. So which all sessions have a fee lesser than 300? So it is going to be one. So this one is ruled off. Okay, let me use a marker. So this one is ruled off. And then when they say less than 300, this one is ruled off as well. Correct? So among the 6 records, we have 4 of them in based on the first condition. Now, in these 4 records, we have to look at the second condition. So we did lesser than 300 and then duration of greater than 4 hours. You will not do that in all 6 of them. In these selected records, you have to see which all ones have duration more than 4 hours. So 5, yes, 5 has the duration, and then 4. So no, 4 will not come. 5, yes, 5, yes. So now if you see the sessions that will be, the output will be your session ID 2, session ID 5, and session ID 1, because only those 3 records meet that combination of your fee less than or equal to 300, sorry, less than 300, and duration greater than 4 hours. Since it was less than and not less than equal to, this one doesn't come into picture, neither this one. So this is the second combination and this is the third combination. So let us take these combinations and write it down. So which all session ID comes? It's session ID 2, 5 and 1. Correct? So now let us go ahead and write the query for the same. Okay. So now coming here, oops. Okay, so let us do it. Select. Since they did not give us what information is needed, we will do a select star from tutor session. Correct? You can write it in the same line or you can break it into multiple lines as per your readability convenience. Where fee is less than 300 and so and has a corresponding and operator in Oracle, and duration, so duration is called as duration only in the table, is greater than 4 hours. So now let us run this. First of all, let me clear the board. So it's 251, remember. Okay. Now let us execute this query. Here we go. 251. And I could see that the sessions are in mixed order. If you wanted to order them, then you will use order by whichever column. So when I say order by session ID, let us see what happens. See, it is in order. By default, it will be in ascending order. If you want them in descending order, then you will use the keyword DESC. See, it's in descending order. However, for your question, they didn't ask that your records have to be ordered. So this doesn't have to be part of your solution. So is the second query clear to you? Great. This is a very simple query. It just takes one table and you have a where clause, but the where clause has an and condition with it. And means that both the conditions should satisfy. If you have or in between them, then it means either one should be satisfied. Okay? Good. So now moving on to the third one. Retrieve all students whose last names ending with N ordered in ascending order by their student ID. Okay, so let us see how to do this. Retrieve all students whose last names ending with N. So here they talk about students. So let us go and run the student table records. So here they are asking us retrieve all students whose last name ends with a N. So when you say it ends with a N, let us look at it. So it's going to be green, it's going to be brown, and Johnson. Am I correct? So the records are going to be green, brown, and Johnson. Now, ordered in ascending order by their student ID, which means we have order by class involved. So this is also a very simple select query. So retrieve all students. So since they said all students, they weren't specific about the columns that are needed. So we can do select star from student where they said the last letter should be N. So how will you take the last letter and compare it? So for that, there is a special operator called like. Like will compare your string with patterns. So where last name like, because we are comparing only the last names ending with N. So like in single quote, I will put a percentage and a N. Let me explain it to you. So generally strings are enclosed in single quote in Oracle. Percentage means it's a wildcard character which indicates percentage means zero or more characters. Okay. You can also use the wildcard character underscore, which means one character. Okay, so here I can have any number of characters in my last name. So that is why I put the percentage, but the last letter has to be N. So I have put N in the last. If you wanted it as a first character to be N, then you will say N percentage. Okay, so where last name like percentage N, order by student ID. So order by student ID in ascending order. Remember, I already told you that when you just put order by, it is always in ascending order. So see here, we have Johnson, Green, and Brown listed here, the three last names which has an N, and then you could see that they are ordered by their student ID in ascending order. If you, though it is sorting in ascending order by default, if you still wanted it to be explicitly stated, then you will say ASC, which means ascending. And as I told you already, if it is descending, you will put DESC so that it is in descending order. Okay, so in our case, we can put it as ASC because they're asking for ascending order, or just give it as order by. And remember one important thing, when you write these queries, you have an order that you have to follow. The first one is your select clause, then your from, then your join, followed by on or using, and then you will have your where condition, and you will also learn about group by, and the group by can come along with having, and the last one in the sequence is order by. You cannot mess with the sequence. In this, your select and from, these two are mandatory, and all the remaining ones are optional. So if they are, this is the order that they have to be. So if you see here, select from, you don't have join, so next should be where, and then you don't have group by having, so next should be order by. You have to maintain that sequence. Let me show it to you what will happen if I mess that sequence. And all your query, it is recommended that it ends with a semicolon. So now I messed with the order. See, SQL command not properly ended. So always make sure that you follow this order of select query clauses that I have specified to you. Okay, and I believe this query is clear to you. So now let me rerun this query. Let's make sure it works fine. Yes, it is. So now let us move on to the fourth one. The fourth question demands a new concept called as subquery. What is subquery? Subquery is a query within a query. Okay, let me show it to you. Here, let us read the question first. Find first name and last name of students enrolled in the AI and deep learning session. So you have students here who are enrolled in session here. So first, we know that first name and last name are in student, correct? So let us try to make the connection. Okay. So in student, you have first name and last name. And in session, I mean the tutor session, we have this session description. So let us quickly go to the tutor session. Let us run it to see what it contains. Yes, it has the description. Correct? So the tutor session has the description field, but what is the commonality? So here, what do you think is the commonality between these two tables? The interesting factor is, so you have tutor session, you have student, there is no common fields between the student and tutor session. Why? Because you have one more table which connects these two tables. Enrollment has the student ID, which is part of your student, and enrollment has the session ID, which is part of your session. Okay, so basically this is an interesting query which we are going to write, which involves three tables and not two. So you have student, enrollment, and session, and the commonality between student and enrollment is student ID, and session and enrollment is the session ID. It's not session, it's actually the tutor session. Okay, so this is interesting, isn't it not? So now we have three of them. So what you could do is you could connect all three of them using joins. That is one option. Or you could use a join and a subquery combination. So, since in our question they explicitly asked us to use subquery, so we are going to use a join and a subquery combo. So first let us see, let's look at the query. It asks for AI and deep learning session. So AI and deep learning belongs to the session ID 6. Correct? Session ID 6 and the tutor ID is also 6. So with this understanding, let us go to the enrollment table. So if you see here, for session ID 6, there is only one student who is enrolled, who is student ID 6. So first, we took this AI. Where is our question? So first we took this AI and deep learning session. With that description, we found out the session ID, which is going to be 6. With that session ID, you go to the enrollment table, you find out the associated student. It could be more than one. In our case, it's just one, which is student ID 6. So now we have to backtrack to the student table, and now student 6 is Frank Davis. So in our question, since they are asking specifically for the first name and last name of student who is enrolled in this session, then the output should be Frank Davis. Is that clear to you? Fine. So now let us see how to do the subquery and join combination. Are you ready for it? Okay, perfect. So let us do that. So we will be selecting first name, comma last name from which table? Student. Correct. Join. So student is connected to the enrollment table, right? So let's say join. We could say join enrollment here, or we could write that join in the subquery. So we will say from student, where you need to know the student ID. So the student ID in this case is 6. But remember, I told you there could be multiple students who are there in that session. So instead of using equal to, if you use equal to and a subquery, what will happen is the subquery should return only one output. That is when you can use equal to. In our case, it could be more than one. So you will put in. In means my subquery could return more than one value, and all those values are taken into consideration. Okay, so now coming here, so what should my subquery contain? So now in the subquery, since we are saying where student ID in, then it means my subquery should return student ID only. So select student ID from enrollment table. Okay, so let me give an alias name. Join. What is the other table? Your tutor session. Correct? Join tutor session using, what is the common field here? Session ID. Correct? So I use using. You can also use on here. Where, what is the condition? Your tutor session, let us keep it as yes, where yes dot description is equal to, in single quote, AI and deep learning. Okay, So let us run this query and see what happens. We got Frank Davis. So what is happening is, let us come step by step. We can just execute the subquery alone and see what happens. See, the subquery gives you 6. Remember how we backtracked it manually? So first it goes and takes the description from the session. The session ID would be 6. Using that session ID 6, you map it with enrollment table and get student ID 6. Now this 6 is passed to the outer query, and you're taking the first name and last name of student ID 6, and you got the Frank Davis. Is this clear to you? This is a little complicated query because it is using both a join and a subquery. But I believe you would have got an idea about what subquery is. Subquery is a query within a query. I could show you a simple example in the next one. Okay, so in the next one, we have get the details of the lowest paid session. So what do you mean by lowest paid session? So let us run this tutor session table. When you talk about payment, the only field that I could see is fee. Your question doesn't have to necessarily give you the exact column name. You have to find the column based on your requirement. Since they said lowest paid session, the session payment is there only in the fee. So we have to find which is the lowest paid session. There are two sessions with the lowest pay. The lowest pay is 200. So the lowest paid sessions are going to be 1 and 4. Since my subquery returns more than one row, remember to use in, but again it depends on what query you are going to write. In our case it would not need an in. I'll show you why. So they said get the details. They didn't tell you what details they need. So let me say select star from tutor session where fee equal to your subquery. So you might wonder, why did I put equal to? You can put in also. There is no problem with that, but I'll tell you why. So in each of our query, we are actually discussing different aspects. In this one, we spoke about using joins and the where clause with greater than or relational operators. Then in the second query, we discussed about where clause with and condition. In the third one, we discussed about like operator with expression and a wildcard character with an order by. In the fourth one, we just saw how to use a combination of subqueries and joins. Now it is time for us to use aggregate functions. Aggregate functions are functions that give you a calculated value. So there is a method called min. When I take min of fee, it is going to give you the minimum value. So what's the minimum fee value? Yes, it is 200. So select minimum fee from tutor session. So see, basically it is the same table, but still you can have a subquery which points to the same table. So when I do select minimum free from tutor session, we get 200. So 200 is just one value. So though there are multiple records with 200, my subquery returns only one value. That is why we are using equal to. So now it means select star from tutor session where fee equal to 200. So in tutor session, there will be two records with fee 200. So that is why we got it. If you are little confused about it, you can very well put in. Using in place of equal to has no harm. Okay, but if you use equal to in place where an in was expected, then you might end up in an error. Okay, so here min of fee, as I told you, it is an aggregate function which is going to return the minimum fee. If I wanted the maximum fee, then I would say select max of fee, which will give me the maximum fee that is involved, which is 320. And now my query should give me the tutor who handles that session information. So the session's fee is 320 and the tutor is 6. Is this clear to you? So according to our question, it has to be min and not max. Okay, now coming on to the last question that we are going to discuss for the day. Okay, so in the last question, retrieve the list of tutors and their areas of expertise, but only for tutors in the Texas state. So, since it talks about tutors and areas of expertise, we know that it needs a join or a subquery. So, here they insisted to use join. So, let us use it. So first of all, tutors and areas of expertise, but only for tutors in Texas state. So let us go execute the tutor query. So if you look at the tutor query, so here you go. How many tutors are there from Texas? So TX stands for Texas. Remember, though they mention Texas, if you type the whole word, you will not get your output because in your tables you store the two-letter abbreviation thing for acronym for this state. So for Texas, we have two tutors basically from Texas. The first one is James Wilson, and then it is then the tutor is Sophia Harris. Their tutor ID is 4 and 6. Okay, now you will go to the areas of expertise and see what are the areas of expertise of 4 and 6 tutor IDs. So for 4, it is data science, and for 6, it is artificial intelligence. Okay. So now retrieve the list of tutors. Okay. So select tutor. So, okay. Select star from tutor join. What's your table name? Your put your exact table name. So areas of expertise. Okay. What's the common field? Tutor ID. It has the exact same name. So I will also show you one more thing. It's called natural join. Natural join, I believe it should work. Let's see. Okay, so natural join joins people with areas of expertise based on your tutor ID. So this is same as saying join areas of expertise using, hold on, sorry, I'm used to Java, so I did the comment wrong. Join areas of expertise using tutor ID. That one is also same as saying natural joins, or the other way of saying the same line is join areas of expertise on tutor dot tutor ID is equal to areas of expertise dot tutor ID. So just try to understand this. All these three possible clauses give us the same output. So you know join on the table name dot column name equal to table name dot column name. You also know join your table name using in parenthesis column name, which means that both your tutor and areas of expertise as tutor ID in common. The more better way of doing it is using a natural join. So here, did you notice that you didn't even mention the column name? You just said natural join table name. So what it'll do is internally it'll go and check your tutor and areas of expertise to find out what is the common column. So the common column is tutor ID. So it'll join it using the common column tutor ID automatically. Okay. So where state, so where state is equal to, in single quote, since it's a string, we enclose it in single quote and say tx. Now let us run this query. Command not properly ended. Oh, we just gave a semicolon. Remember, semicolon is a delimiter which ends your query. See, we got the answer. So we know that the James Wilson, the tutor ID 3, had the area of expertise computer science, and Sophia Harris had artificial intelligence. And if you think giving all these information makes it clumsy, you can just say select first name, or you can even say tutor ID. Just like using command, you don't need the alias name for the ambiguous column if you are using a natural join. So let us say area of expertise. So one good thing with natural join and join using is you don't need the alias names because it can recognize the common column and do it appropriately. Okay, so I believe you found this session interesting. So we just discussed about three types of joins already. We did the basic inner join, we used the natural join, even in inner join, we used the join on, join using as well. Correct? And then we just discussed about subqueries, combo of subquery and joins, using operators like, and how to use order by, how to use your where clause, and how to use an aggregate function. So this is not it. SQL programming is such a dense topic. You have lots and lots to learn out of it. I just gave a sample of it with the help of this exercise. So if in case your instructor has given you an exercise, the very first thing that you would do is execute the script which we saw in the previous video. And then once when the script is executed, make sure you do a select star from all the tables, and then you could write the queries. And remember, if you are submitting, you will submit it as the query along with its output. And when you are midway with your work, don't forget to save your work. If you save your work, when you come back next time, you can access it. So how do we access it? We go to SQL commands, we go to saved SQL, and here you go. See, all our queries are saved. Okay, so go ahead, do your assignment, give proper explanations along with the query and its output, and I will see you soon in the next video which talks more about SQL programming. Okay, take care, see you soon, and bye bye.